going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Jake here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on this video. And you can see by the title that I'm actually going to be doing another book review. And if you're new here, you can see that I do a lot of fitness content. I do make a ton of fitness content, health related, nutrition content, mental health as well. But when I come across a good book that I read and I find it very valuable, I will in fact share it to my whole channel. And I've done about 3 of them. Or 4 of them. I think I did 3 already. I did Think Like a Monk. I'll tag them up here. Limitless by Jim Quick and The Alchemist. So I love sharing a powerful book, and honestly, this one right here we have Breath by James Nestor. Okay, this one I'll give an honest rating, a 9 out of 10. I don't want to give every single book that I read a 10 out of 10 because I still want to be truthful with what I read and then give you the honest opinion of my rating. But honestly, this is a 9 out of 10. It is a great, fantastic book. It says right here, The New Science of a Lost Art. And I took some notes, so I'm gonna actually, while I'm doing this, I'm gonna read off some of the notes because I'll be honest, there's a lot of statistics that they went through, James Nestor gave me that I can't remember off the top of my head. So I do have some notes here I'll look to. But overall, this was a fantastic book if you want to learn how to properly regain control of your breath. But not only that, how to regain control of your breath, but learn about why we should breathe properly and how we lost this art of breathing. And it's funny because James Nestor even says in the beginning of the book, he's like, people were telling him, why are you creating a book about your breath? You know, what's the purpose to create a book about breathing? Everyone knows how to breathe. We all breathe, but a lot of us subconsciously breathe incorrectly. And whoever is following me and who has been following me for a while now knows that I'm huge on breathing, right? I love to breathe. But I love to learn about the breath and different types of techniques to breathe. And if you are new here and this is your first time, welcome. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you here. Let me know in the comments, how'd you find me? How'd you come across me? Just let me know. You can hear my papers flipping in the background. So I'll start off with kind of an overview of what the book's about. So honestly, the book has a lot of case studies, and what these case studies show is they're case studies from our ancestors, years, centuries and centuries ago, right? Back to BC, right? Ancient times. They did a lot of case studies where they showed how we were breathing properly, right? We were inhaling through our nose and exhaling through our nose. There's a bigger cavity in our nose than our mouth, right? It's crazy how they really didn't do a lot of studies. They look at pulmonologists, they call them pulmonauts. Current day, they look at all these different type of doctors, and they never really still don't acknowledge the nose and how powerful the nose is. And I'll give you something right here that I remember. He said in the book that when you breathe through your mouth, you actually lose 40% of water from your body, rather than if you were to breathe through your nose. So the reason is the overall, in my opinion, the overall benefits of breathing through your nose is that you're gonna get more oxygen delivered to your lungs, right? To the tissues in your body, right? You're gonna allow those nutrients and blood flow to travel more easily throughout your body when you breathe through your nose rather than your mouth. So there was literally, this book is a lot for breathing, right? So there were so many tidbits in here that were honestly so many takeaways, but there was a ton of case studies, right? James Nestor went all across the world, studied so much, learned so much just to put on this book. So big shout out to him for doing this. One of the funny case studies that he actually did was on himself, right? James Nestor, he clogged and blocked off his nose, right? He blocked off his nose with, I'm not sure, he put cotton or something. He put something in his nose for 10 days straight. And see, this is where I'm kind of thinking what exactly plummeted. Basically, over the course of 10 days, there were certain levels in his body that plummeted because he was breathing through his mouth. And the funny thing is he said, it's actually not that funny, but he said if he kept on going for say another week or even a couple more days at that, he would have adapted sleep apnea, which is basically snoring within your mouth, right? You're breathing through your mouth while you're sleeping, which is something we don't want to do, which is actually another big takeaway, learning how to breathe through your nose, right? When we learn how to adapt to breathe through our nose, we're going to be better off throughout the rest of our day and throughout when we sleep. Because when we sleep, we subconsciously start to breathe through our mouth, right? We transfer this breath in through our mouth, and this is how we snore, right? This is how we actually tend to snore and then develop sleep apnea, which is awful for our body. So I wrote down here, as I looked down at the notes that I got, there was an epilogue in the last chapter, so it kind of did a summary of each single chapter that he had. So I'll run through some of them, and the first thing I see is the phrase "shut your mouth." So if you take anything from this video, and that's not to be like a mean statement, he says that in the book. He says shut your mouth, because if you take anything from this, just close your mouth, right? That's the biggest takeaway from this book. Close your mouth when you breathe. Just breathe through your nose and out through your nose. He states that when we're doing our emails, right? It's so crazy how subconsciously we breathe through our mouth and we're not aware of it. This is the craziest thing I find. And as I'm more conscious and I'm more aware out throughout my day, I notice that sometimes I will tend to breathe through my mouth, right? If I'm checking my emails or doing schoolwork, right? I'm at my desk, I might notice that I'm breathing through my mouth, right? But think about all the times all of us might tend to do this, right? If we're checking for emails, or if we're just sitting down, if we're just sitting down, just relaxing, and we're breathing through our mouth, and we're not conscious about this. This has a huge impact long term. So he does say that short-term mouth breathing is not a big effect. So if you short-term, like you're laughing, like I'm talking right now, I'm breathing through my mouth, right? I can't talk and breathe through my nose really at the same time, but I'm breathing through my mouth. This short-term breathing has no real effect on the body, right? It's very, very minor. If you are long-term breathing and you're carrying this into your sleep, out through your day, you're just sitting down, you're breathing through your mouth, that's where it takes to the next level, right? We want to learn how to adapt to breathe through our nose, because the benefits are so much more than the actual mouth. And I think that's one of the great takeaways too, is, right, getting actually that breath through the nose, learning how to retrain that, which is something you can practice a little bit every single day, right? Learning a little bit, just sitting down, doing meditation and practicing breathing through your nose. So you can try that at home. If you're just sitting down, you just train yourself just to focus on the nose, and you will carry this over time. Your subconscious will start to adapt more to the nose rather than the mouth, because you're actually physically training it. So shut your mouth was a big one. Another one that I found pretty cool was that how your breath through your nose, obviously, is so much more powerful in the gym. So when you're working out, overall anyways, when you're working out, your breath has such a huge advantage in the gym. The way you use it and the way you deliver and exert your breath in the gym is incredible, right? You can perform a lift 10% better, 10% the more energy better, by exerting more power through your nose through a lift, right? So a lot of times, like I had a class and they're like, take a big belly breath of air in through your mouth, and I'm like, okay, because I'm learning it. I'm like, okay, we should probably do it through our nose though, you know, because you can get more oxygen intake through your nose. So you would breathe in, obviously, through a lift. Say you're doing like a leg press or something, or even say you're doing like a squat or just a leg press. You're breathing in as you're coming in, right? You're contracting, and as you're right, letting go, and you're coming or going through the force of that lift. If you're coming up from a squat, you want to use your breath. You want to power through your breath as you're going through a lift, as you're going through the hardest part of your lift. A squat, you're coming up. A deadlift, you're coming up. Leg press, you're pushing, right? That's where your breath can really, really be powerful. So one of the chapters, I'll go through some of the chapters here, and I'll just give the biggest takeaways. So one of the chapters was called Exhale, and this is actually pretty crazy because I never really thought about it, and now I guess it makes a lot more sense. He talks about how we should not be afraid to fear carbon dioxide. So obviously I'm inhaling oxygen and I'm letting out carbon dioxide, but he talks about a lot of the times we breathe too much, right? We actually breathe way too much than we should. We shouldn't be breathing in a lot of oxygen, but we should be focusing on fully letting out of that carbon dioxide, because that's the key. And it's funny because he actually mentions Wim Hof in here. If you don't know who Wim Hof is, I actually did one of his 40-day challenges. I might even tag that up here on my channel. I did his 40-day shower challenge, but what he talks about is fully letting go, right? Letting go of all the carbon dioxide out of your body. And he mentions Wim Hof in here, and it's actually funny to come back to this book and be like, okay, I understand now. When you want to let the carbon dioxide out of your body. And he gives you an optimum breath, right? He said the optimum breath for any human being is 5.5 seconds inhale and a 5.5 second exhale. So this is the perfect optimum breath. You want to have this station, right? You want to inhale and not even pause at the bottom. Keep it a steady flow. So if I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, inhale through my nose, and then I'm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, exhale through my nose, I'm keeping this steady pace. So don't be afraid to acknowledge the exhale, right? You can even, if you're practicing breathing, hold that breath at the bottom, right? You could even do that if you're doing some techniques. So the next chapter, another one was called Chew. This one was very shocking, and something I'm tending to learn about more is that chewing food was actually James Nestor's first. I don't know why I feel like just showing it again. James Nestor was it was his inspiration to making the book was chewing food, right? He was chewing food, and he realized that dating back to our ancestors, right? If you look at our ancestors, what did we eat? We ate raw foods, plants, carnivores. We ate things that were raw, that were natural, that were hard, that were chewy, right? Now you look in today's society, what are we eating? We're not eating as much raw food. We're having soft food. Everything we have is soft. The drinks, right? We have smoothies. We have these soft candies. So what is that doing? That's actually doing something to our mouth, our teeth, right? We're not developing a strong mandible, right? We're not actually practicing the art of chewing, which has a huge effect on the way we breathe. So chewing was huge. That was more, it says, eating less soft foods and more rough, heart healthy foods. And obviously keep your mouth closed when you're chewing is huge. But that was one of the biggest things. You can look at our ancestors. We're chewing hard, healthy foods. Now we're just having soft foods. So we're diminishing that bone, right? We're not really using it as much. But the thing is, there's nothing to fear because we can train this, right? He actually says there's many people who train just by eating these heart-healthy, hard, raw foods, that they can train the bone to grow back, right? They can train to become stronger, which helps and correlates to overall breath. So breathe more on occasion was another chapter. This one, I talked about that, and then how we breathe matters, right? I talked about the perfect breath, the inhale for 5.5 seconds, and the exhale for 5.5 seconds. So there were so many takeaways in this book. I just wanted to list off a couple of chapters, to be honest. I liked how he talked about a lot of athletics too. Like he talked about someone who was a runner, right? This girl who trained herself to breathe through her nose, inhale, exhale through her nose as she was doing a Olympic marathon. And she won. She won all these gold medals because everyone else beside her was breathing heavy. But the biggest thing is something I want to acknowledge too in this book is that you want to take longer, shorter breaths. This is what he says. Longer, shorter breath. It sounds kind of contradictory, but when the lady was running the race, what she did was she breathed slower, or longer, slower. I said that completely wrong. That doesn't make any, or slower, shorter breaths, right? As I mentioned before, less oxygen. We're actually breathing in too much oxygen, and we're not letting out enough carbon dioxide. So you're taking slower, shorter breaths. So what she's doing when she's running, she's slowing down her heart rate. That's what she's doing. She's really slowing down her heart rate, and then she's exhaling, right? She's slowly in and then slowly out, and they're a longer pace, right? You can even do, that optimum 5.5 in and 5.5 out. So that was another pretty interesting takeaway that he talks about, is that keeping those breaths short, but keeping them also kind of a longer duration, if that makes sense, kind of being short and slower with them is what I should be saying. Other than that, I really like the end of this book because there was tons and tons of techniques at the end of this book, which was I saw that actually when I opened the book, and I was like, okay, there's like millions of techniques he gives. Like I could even look at some of them right here. He has different types of yogi breathings, alternate nostril breathing, which is, pranayama, you'll see the yogis do, which I talk about too, is that they do like, they cover their nose and then they'll cover the other side of the nose. So they'll do like, they'll breathe in through one nostril, exhale through that nostril, cover, breathe in, exhale, you know. I might have done that wrong, to be honest, but it's interesting and I want to find it. The reason behind that breath that I just showed you is right here. So you inhale through your right nostril, that's your fight or flight. So I talk about the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system a lot. So you have the autonomic nervous system, and underneath you have the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So the right actually controls your sympathetic, your fight or flight. So you breathe through this right, and it puts your body in alertness, right? It's like when you see a bear in the woods, what do? You either fight or you flee. You're probably gonna be running, right? So it puts your body in that alertness. You feed more blood to the opposite hemisphere of your brain, right? You play with logical, the right side of your nostril plays with logical decisions, language, and computing. Whereas the left nostril is now your parasympathetic. That's your rest and digest, right? You're calm. So that's what this alternate's doing. It's working both. You're breathing in, that calm rest or digest. You're breathing in here, you're also letting out, you're breathing in, you know, there's a whole strategy to it, but you're acting that sympathetic. So it's both. The left, right, lowers your temperature and blood pressure, cools your body, plays with creative thought and emotion. So I thought this was pretty cool. Anything else I'm looking at right here, just some other tidbits that I can throw in at the end. Other than that, I think that was pretty much it. I learned about hyperventilation. Obviously we know hyperventilation is when you're kind of panicking with your breath. I understood that hyperventilation, as he says, isn't that we're not getting enough oxygen in our body. Hyperventilation is that we're getting too much oxygen in our body, right? We're in a state of panic and we're letting too much oxygen in. Whereas if you're hyperventilating, you should do something known as hypoventilating, right? You're letting out this carbon dioxide out of your body. And I guess that's another thing too, is if you have that anxiety, you have depression, you have fear, you have these bad thoughts, negative thoughts that come into your mind, right? You get anxious during times. What we should do is not breathe in more, but breathe out, right? Focus on that carbon dioxide, letting or out through your nose. That's one of the struggles I had with reading the book, was if the exhale through the nose or the mouth was a problem. I really think anything, like I said, the overall thing was just to shut the mouth and breathe through the nose and breathe out through the nose. So all in all, it was a great book. I hope you guys learned something. I gave you a lot of information. I know I'm looking at the time here, I rambled on and on, but I'll chop this up into segments so you guys can kind of jump to the chapters that I talked about and the little information that I gave you throughout. But overall, a fantastic book. I highly recommend Breathe by James Nestor. If you want to read something just about learning more about yourself, about your breath, he gives so much more in here that I have not given. So if you want to go check that out, check him out. I think his Instagram is at the Mr. James Nestor. He has a podcast with Joe Rogan too, if you want to watch that. Great podcast as well. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button. It helps me a lot. And comment, what was your favorite takeaway from this? What did you learn? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Stay happy out there. Stay healthy. Peace.